What if everything that you thought you knew about retirement planning was just the tip of the iceberg? Today, we're diving deep into strategies that go beyond just that traditional 401k, because let's be honest, saving for retirement isn't just a one-size-all-fits game. Whether you're a high-income earning business owner or an early retiree in the making, or someone that's looking to build a lasting financial legacy for your family, this episode is going to be packed with insights that you cannot afford to miss. Joining me is our usual retirement expert, Matt Ruttenberg, who's here to help us think bigger, plan smarter, and secure the financial future that we truly deserve. Get ready, this conversation might just change the way that you see money forever. And today we're going to kind of do something a little bit different than what we normally do with Matt, and we're going to go through a few scenarios of real life situations that have popped up, and we're going to talk about those with Matt to see how he would approach those conversations. And before we kind of get into that, I just want to let you know that if you kind of love what we're talking about today, definitely connect with Matt and see how he can help out your team. We're going to have a link in the description. Otherwise, go to lifeincrs.com/tax-savings-podcast. So Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, and so I'm super excited about this one just because we're going through some real kind of life case studies and kind of thinking about, what strategies would we talk about? What strategies would we implement in this situation? So let's kind of dive right into that concept, that idea. The first scenario I want to talk about is a dentist. A dentist that's aged 50. They have annual income of about $750,000 and they're organized as an S corporation. They currently have 5 employees. They're not looking to provide broad retirement benefits for them. And what they're currently doing is just maxing out their 401k, and they're looking to reduce taxable income while aggressively saving for retirement. So I'll kind of open up the door for you with that scenario. If there's anything else you need from me to kind of dive deep into what strategies work for you, let me know.
Yeah, so that's a great scenario. Honestly, it's kind of, I would say it's kind of our wheelhouse, to be honest with you. And so it's closely held. Ownership is running the business basically. Just a few employees, and the absolute goal is the ownership basically, and their tax savings and things like that, and that we can get really, really creative. And to preface all of these, I think the best way to explain this is I'm going to go back and explain that upside down 3-tiered wedding cake that I talked about exhaustion, I think, on the podcast. And so I'm going to kind of use that as a reference. So visualize an upside down 3-tiered wedding cake. I call it a retirement plan stack, excuse me. And we start with a lot of two questions. What is your motivator? What is the primary reason you want this plan? And this one clearly is the ownership wants to stockpile and save money for taxes. So a few things noted that I noticed when you went through this is, one, it's smaller organization. So we, even if we do have to give something to the employees, it's not going to be a huge amount of money. So that tells us that the efficiency can work out really well in this situation. And the owner, who's 50, may or may not be the oldest person in the organization. Now, a lot of times in medical, there tends to be some older staff members that might be around 60, and that could cause some problems. The idea here is that you want to be the oldest person in the room, and then obviously the taxes are the priority here. So first and foremost, let's look at that upside down 3-tiered cake. So the bottom layer, to make this the most efficient, we want to do a safe harbor 401k. The safe harbor is basically a pre-approved matching investing schedule. There's a menu of them, but as IRS says, okay, you've created a fair plan for your employees. Now you can max out. So that gets you to $23,500. Since they're over 50, add another $7,500. So that's $30,000 right off the bat, right there on that bottom layer. The second layer, we're going to get into the profit sharing. And every layer is designed a specific way to maximize the layer above it. So for example, we want to use a non-elective safe harbor on the bottom layer. Then profit sharing, we want to target the owner. We're not going to do a pro rata profit sharing where everybody gets the same percentage that you give yourself. We want to target the ownership. Age is a big factor in that. It's great to be the oldest person in the room, basically, when you look at that. And new comparability, age weighted, those are all different kinds of profit sharing, but it's open-ended from year to year, and it's discretionary from year to year. So if you accidentally you hire someone who doesn't fit well with that calculation, then we can pivot, is the idea. It's open-ended from year to year. So that's that second layer. The potential there is to give them up to $70,000 per year in the profit sharing and the cash in the 401k. Now, this is where we get really, really creative above and beyond that. There's a lot of income here, $750,000. And it's a small organization, so a huge chunk of that's probably profit, realistically. And we're assuming that's not all profit, right, Mike? The 750.
Yeah, I mean, I would say let's look at both. What if it was all profit?
Okay.
Let's just say, half of it's profit or something.
Yeah, so let's say if it's full profit, we have a huge amount of profit to work off of, right? The whole idea is to minimize the taxes, especially since you're an S corp, flow through entity, you're paying taxes on the whole 750. So we're going to add that third layer. It's a small organization, and that third layer is going to be a cash balance plan. So the cash balance plan, if you're 50, if probably all three of these layers, you're going to be over 200 grand pre-tax contributions. So out of that 750, 200 grand, even if it's half that, you might be able to put more into that amount into it. So 200 grand at the bare minimum is what you're allowed to put into all three layers. Now, if depending on the organization and the employee pool, we might even, I don't want to call it supercharge it, but it's a form of even making it even more robust and even more efficient. And we call it a qualified swap. And basically what you're doing is, you're putting the 200 grand into traditional investments. You can self-direct, you can have it as a managed portfolio. And then half of your cash balance plan can actually invest inside of a life insurance policy. Okay. So when you do that, the IRS is looking at the fair market value of the policy, and you can increase your contributions by 35% more per year, right? So that's possibly another 50,000 or so, because it's only in the cash balance plan, of additional contributions. So that's even like maybe $250,000 of pre-tax contributions that you can get into these three layers. Now, if there's an older employee or maybe half the staff is older than you are, it's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to cause an issue to where you're going to have to give a chunk more. Usually it's in the profit sharing section towards those older employees. And when you do that, we might need to pivot and come up with a different strategy to where maybe we don't offer the cash balance plan. We go through a non-qualified option, which I'm going to get more into, I think, in other scenarios here. But that's kind of like the general thing. This is one where we can really get aggressive with this tax savings with all three layers, and even use that qualified swap with the life insurance policy above and beyond the limits of the cash balance plan.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And just for context purposes, can any of those contributions, or what amount of those contributions could they choose to do in Roth if that was an important piece of their financial picture, they wanted it to be in a Roth type vehicle?
Yeah, Roth type vehicle. So the first 23.5 always is considered, that's the very bottom layer of the retirement plan stack. That can always be the Roth, okay? There's some other strategies that I'll talk about later, but to get more into the Roth. But above and beyond that, when you use that life insurance policy inside the cash balance plan, you're getting the pre-tax contributions that go into it, right? But the life insurance policy has this tax code, it's called 7702, and it mimics the Roth. It's like a giant unlimited Roth, basically. And then part of this qualified swap strategy that we do is in 5 years, we swap out non-qualified, non-retirement assets with that life insurance policy. And then you now have the entire policy is outside the retirement plan. You never paid taxes on it in the beginning because of pre-tax contributions, and you'll never have to pay taxes on it again because it mimics the Roth. Okay, so it's called a qualified swap. It allows you to swap out roughly half of the policy out completely tax-free. And it is basically, when you do the strategy, it doesn't really mimic the Roth. It more mimics a giant HSA account where you never pay taxes on the front end and you never have to pay taxes on the back end.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I know we talked about that a little bit deeper on the TaxSum, one of our webinars there, as well as some of the training that we do on TaxSum side. So if you're interested in deep diving into that a little bit more, you can also check out TaxSum for that. All right, let's go to the next scenario. And in this scenario, we have an online consulting firm. The owner is age 42. They have annual income profit in the business of around $500,000, currently organized as an S corporation. no employees, and his goal is to retire by 50 while minimizing taxes on withdrawals. So age 42, looking to retire within 8 years, about $500,000 in income, no employees. What do you look like for that situation?
Yeah, so a couple of key indicators here that I'm looking at here. Obviously, flexibility of investments sounds like it's really important here because of the real estate. We have a ton of business owners who either dabble or are heavy in real estate because it's a very similar business model to that. So flexibility of the investments, we want to make sure that we're able to get them into what they want to invest in. And then tax savings doesn't sound like it's a number one priority in this situation. More early retirement seems to be more important there. And then also the early retirement. And this is going to be a combination, I think, of types of retirement vehicles, but also strategies involved with this one. No employees, that's wonderful. All independent contractors, all those folks, you do not have to recognize them in the retirement plan whatsoever. They can go out and do their own 401k if they want because they're all technically self-employed individuals as independent contractors. It's just this business owner here, 42 years old. Right off the bat, this is pretty standard self-directed solo 401k. So a solo 401k allows you to contribute up to $70,000 if you're 42 years old. $70,000. That's a mix between your employee contribution, which is the 23.5, and your profit sharing, which is an additional 46.5 for 2025. Now, I think it's really important on this one to make this self-directed, giving them the ability to invest in real estate inside of their actual plan is really important. There's obviously a lot of rules that go along with that, which we guide you on. And the other piece is, I think maybe even a mega backdoor Roth could be a great idea here, because especially if you can do real estate in a Roth vehicle, then it's a completely tax-free real estate transaction, right? When you purchase it and sell it in the back ends. The mega backdoor is where we have to make sure that in the plan document, we allow after-tax contributions and we allow in-plan conversions. And basically what you're doing is traditionally you're only allowed to have that 23.5 in the Roth out of the entire 70, only 23.5. But now this allows us to use all $70,000 towards Roth and be able to push that towards real estate if they're a heavy real estate investor. So that's a great first step, to be honest with you. And then because they have a $500,000 income if they're an online consulting firm, probably almost no overhead, a huge percentage of that is probably going to be profit. So we have more room, obviously above and beyond the $70,000. Now there's a few things we can do. So we've cleared up the first and second layers of that retirement stack, right? With the solo covers both of those layers. The other thing we can do is we could add a cash balance plan on top of that if we wanted to, if they wanted pre-tax investments. Now, you can't do the Roth conversions while the cash balance plan is up and running, but you could after age 50, maybe there's no income coming in at all because they retired early. You could do conversions later. So you basically front-loaded your pre-tax contributions for several years while you're working, and then you do incremental Roth conversions as you get older, and you have no earned income coming in. So that's a potential for that third layer. Or you leave it in the pre-tax, and we can use strategies like the 72T, where you can take earlier withdrawals from your pre-tax money, your retirement money, or Rule 55, where you can start taking withdrawals from your current 401k at age 55 instead of age 59 and a half. So it would realistically be, we're going to pull a little bit from all these buckets of money that we're contributing into Roth, mega backdoor Roth, pre-tax. We can do all of that. Now, if you don't like that flexibility of the pre-tax when you're doing the cash balance plan, what I would probably say is, and it's probably a better idea, because if you're going to retire at age 50, you're going to be aggressive with your investing. So the contributions are just one piece of this. We want to be able to use that money to buy real estate. So we're leveraging the contributions that you're putting into the 401k and the retirement plan stack, but you also want to use that maybe to invest in more real estate alongside it. So I would probably think of going to the 7702 plan is what we call it. It's also using that life insurance strategy that we've talked about in the previous one, but we're not doing it inside of the plan. It's not owned by the plan. And the reason why is because we don't want to deal with all the IRS rules of 59 and a half, you can't touch this until you do this, and can't touch. We just want to have full reign to be able to use it for real estate investing, or being able to use it at age 50 without having to ask Uncle Sam if it's okay, basically, is the best way to explain it. So the 7702 tax code is basically what we're doing is we're using a life insurance platform instead of a traditional custodian. So we're investing and we're using that as the custodian, a life insurance platform as the custodian instead of a traditional custodian like a Fidelity or Schwab or something. And when it does that, it allows you to use that 7702 tax code, which mimics a giant unlimited Roth. And you can use that whenever you want, and you're taking loans against your asset, basically, which is a tax-free transaction. And you can use that forever. And there's no rules on when or how much you put into it. It's just all about how we design it. So that would give them the flexibility to use it for more real estate investing, use it for early retirement, and not have to really worry about following the 59 and a half, the IRS rules of a pre-tax qualified retirement plan.
Yeah, and there's a couple things I just want to pull out and talk about that you just discussed. The first one is self-directing. And I think that a lot of people think that a 401k, if I put money into a 401k account, that I just got to do, the stock market, whatever kind of funds that are part of that 401k, that's kind of what I'm locked into. And in a lot of cases, that is true, especially, certain businesses that you're in, you're kind of just stuck with whatever they offer in there. But as a business owner, you have a lot more flexibility with that, right? And you can turn your traditional, your regular 401k, and you can self-direct it, which means that you determine how those funds are invested. And so you could do different stocks, you could choose different stocks you want to do, you can invest in crypto, you can invest in real estate, you can invest in businesses. There's all sorts of things you can do there. Now, obviously, we have to be careful that we're not like putting money into a 401k and then funding our business. That's not an allowable transaction. No. But there is a lot of flexibility there. And so just talk briefly about what is required. Is this like a special 401k that allows self-directing, or what needs to be done in order to even have that ability to do in the 401k? Because I think so many business owners don't even know that that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think the key phrase here is not all 401ks are created equal, right? So there's a lot of turnkey options, and those are the mass majority that people hear about, is the turnkey 401k options. And you are stuck inside of that protocol and what they have available on their investment platform. So one of the main roles of a 401k plan is the custodian. It's where is the money being held and what can you invest in? And certain custodians allow different types of investments. So for example, if you want to go into cryptocurrency, you can't go just use a traditional off-the-shelf custodian. You got to find a custodian that allows cryptocurrency. And inside of when you're wanting to do real estate, what we're doing is we're opening up a bank account in the name which is owned by the 401k. Now, a lot of banks, most credit unions have a really hard time understanding. If you walk in and say, I want to open up a bank account in the name of my 401k, they're going to go ask for a manager and try to figure out what that means. So there's certain banks that really know what that means and how to do that. But that is acting as your custodian. Your bank account and all things for that real estate is used out. Every utility bill, every tax, every handyman that comes through has to be used outside using that real estate. You can get certain types of loans, mortgages inside your plan as well. So if you don't have, the 500 grand inside of your 401k that you want to use for your real estate or to buy that property, you can do a non-recourse loan to help purchase that property. So that's another thing you can do there. So think about it this way. The 401k is an umbrella. It's a tax code. You can have as many custodians inside of that, underneath that umbrella. You just can't have more than one umbrella. So we can have multiple custodians. So if you want some that are just traditional stocks and bonds, great. We'll bring one of those custodians in. If you want to do real estate also, we'll bring in a bank account. That's how you do it. You just add a custodian that you need. It doesn't have to be one. It can be multiple. And again, not all are created equal. You just got to find a partner, an administrator that is able to function in using these multiple custodians.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the second piece I want to cover is the 7702 and this kind of like a Roth acting like it's life insurance, but has the feels and concept of a Roth to it, which I think can be really powerful in planning purposes. But just talk briefly, and we don't got to deep dive into this because we'll probably talk about this in some of the other scenarios too. But a lot of people, they hear life insurance and they run the other way because they're scared. They know there's a lot of people that say don't do life insurance. There's a lot of kind of bad stuff out there. But remember, what we're talking about in this conversation here is higher income earners. And this is for those that are just looking to go above and beyond what they're traditionally doing as far as retirement savings and tax strategy. So just talk briefly about this concept of a properly designed life insurance policy, because I know, when I had policies, I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, this is a policy from a long time ago, a 7702 plan. I'm like, I don't know if it was designed properly. So I'm like, I'm going to forward it over to Matt. Matt's going to let me know what this thing is. So just talk to me a little bit about the design of a policy and how some people can, and where life insurance kind of gets a bad rap sometimes, is just because the person selling it either doesn't understand or they're just chasing a commission, and they did poorly designed policies that don't perform the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Great point. So there are a lot, just like real estate agents, right? Everyone's got a real estate license, but only a few really, really focus on it and really study it and things like that. And that's the same for the insurance industry. It's also really important to make sure that, they have multiple types of it's not just one product, one insurance product that is being sold. I call that street level, right? So the street level policies are where, the whole life policies, and everybody gets one that can qualify for it, right? Basically, it's the policy. And those are the ones that we come across a lot. The ones that we design, they're very specifically designed to where cash value, we want the cash value to be the main part of this. We don't in most cases, need a big, robust death benefit, because that's where the costs come in. The death benefit is where the costs come into the policy. So there's a ratio of your cash value and your death benefit, okay? We want to minimize that as much as possible, because the amount that is above your cash value is what the insurance company's on the hook for. And if it's too much, they're going to charge you a larger fee, and it eats away at your cash value. So that's the big way. That's one of the main things that we look at. But again, there is a sequence of savings vehicles that you really should focus on. And it shouldn't be, a life insurance policy should absolutely not be the first thing that you start putting your money into. There needs to be a sequence of types of accounts. So get the 401k going, do the profit sharing, possibly do a cash balance plan. A lot of this has to do with employee makeup times. In the non-qualified world, in the business world, there's different reasons why we want to use the insurance. But a lot of it is because the annual testing, we have to give too much money to your employees. So we have to go another route, pull it from your distributions that you normally would give yourself, fund it that way. Possibly we are not going to get the upfront tax deduction using it that way, but we can use some of your other strategies that you talk about, Mike, on your podcast and in Tax Helm to help offset that instant gratification of a deduction you were looking for. So in the business owner world, flexibility is key. I mean, absolute flexibility is key. And you don't want this to be the very first thing you invest in. This is for higher income earners that have more room, and they want the flexibility to either invest in other things and use that money for other things, and get the long-term tax strategies, because sometimes it's nice to have that tax-free Roth-like income coming to you in the future as well. So lots of variables. I don't want to go too far into it because it's pretty in-depth, but it's not for everybody. It should be for those that it actually makes sense for.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And by the way, if you guys, just as a reminder, if you want to get connected with Matt, talk to him about your situation, kind of learn more about there's going to be a link in the description, but go to lifeincrs.com/tax-savings-podcast, and you can get connected with Matt there. All right, so let's go to another scenario. Here we have a high-end landscaping business. Owner is aged 45. Annual income varies widely because depending on what type of deals, contracts that he has. So $200,000 to $600,000 is the range that it can go into. He has 12 employees, but they're all seasonal. Remember, this is a landscaping company, so all seasonal. And really, his goal is just to have a flexible retirement plan that allows for high contributions in good years, but no requirements to do that in slow years. So what would you kind of look at for a situation like that?
So I can go pretty deep on this one. The employee pool is really, really important in this. And when I talk about that, I mean eligibility, entry point, entry dates when they can get into the plan. Eligibility is really important here. So the IRS deems full-time employees are 1,000 hours or more per year. Okay, that's full-time, but that's only 20 hours a week, right? That's on the average around 20 hours per week to be able to get to that 1,000 hours. So I think a lot of us will look at that as pretty part-time. It's not full-time. So seasonal is also a little bit different, right? Same with the restaurant industry. You know, if it's a seasonal location like Florida, they're gonna just have people come in the winter time, and then they're gonna go. Some of them move away in the summer to go find work elsewhere. But when they come back, the hours that they did prior to being, I guess, let go count. You can't just remove your past. It's not like they reset the clock every single time, but we do say, are you doing the 1,000 hours per year or not? Okay, so I wanted to touch on that. That was a big piece of it. So, but let's assume that we can remove everybody from eligibility here. Let's just assume that, right? There's no full-time workers. Everyone's under 1,000 hours. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna maximize the eligibility. So they cannot, not only do they have to do the 1,000 hours, they also have to be with you for 1 year before they can even be added to the plan. In case you get someone who is working a lot of hours, but maybe they have high turnover. Landscape, restaurants, there's a ton of turnover and they're gone in 6 months, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to even let their own money into the plan. So that's really important. And they're going to do semi-annual enrollment dates. So theoretically, they could be with you for 1.5 years before they're even allowed to put their own money in. So that's to protect the cash flow and the assets of the business to where we don't have to give anything. So assuming that nobody is eligible, I think you said it was just one owner here, right? Yes, yeah, one owner. So solo 401k all the way. So just because you have W-2 employees, it doesn't mean you have to create a group plan. If nobody's eligible, you in essence have a solo 401k because none of the annual testing is relevant. We don't need to worry about that because we have to know about it. We do have to know who's in the company so we can deem who is eligible and if they're on pace to become eligible, so we can pivot. And having that extended long eligibility allows us to see it coming down the road, say, hey, this person is coming to eligibility. We need to be able to pivot, maybe make an amendment to the plan, because as soon as you go into group plan, then it's all about what are the employees doing? What are they doing to allow what you can do? And then we might have to pivot to a safe harbor 401k if any of them become eligible. Right off the bat, we do solo 401k as long as we possibly can, because then we don't have to offer anything to the employees. All layers are discretionary in a 401k plan. So the flexibility that they are requiring, you don't have to contribute your own money to the plan. You don't have to do a profit sharing contribution. You can let it sit there for years and do nothing with it. And then all of a sudden you have a great year and you can max out everything across the board. Again, the 23.5 can be Roth. Profit sharing is traditionally pre-tax, but again, since this is solo, it's easy to do those mega backdoor Roth conversions. Now, if for some reason we have somebody does become eligible in this scenario, profit sharing is going to be really difficult. I don't want to go too far into this because this is a really in-depth conversation on what type of safe harbor that we'd have to go into if they become eligible. Profit sharing is going to be really difficult because profit sharing isn't as easy as, okay, the only person who contributes, we're going to give them money. A lot of times you have to give other people money depending on their tenure with the company, their age, and things like that, whether you want to or not. Sometimes just they sneak in and say, oops, you got to give me some profit sharing, and they have no money. We're literally opening the 401k plan just for them so you can do the profit sharing. So because of that, a lot of times that is a good scenario where we will move to the non-qualified plan to where we're doing the 23,500, can't get you to the 70, but we're going to go over to that non-qualified using that 7702 tax code for the for the difference, which mimics the Roth, using that life insurance platform. So when you do that, there's two kinds of retirement plans. There's qualified. Qualified means that you have to pass those quote unquote fairness rules, like the annual testing. You have to give your employees something in order for you to benefit from that contribution. Non-qualified means you don't have to give money to anybody. You can give it to only you. You can give it to one employee in your company because that's the one person you care about. Maybe it's a successor or a key employee that if they leave, you have to train 3 other people just to replace them. And you want to leave that person on your staff for as long as possible. That is also the benefit of doing a non-qualified plan. So you can say, I just want that person to get this plan, and everyone else is going to get the bare minimum. Because a lot of times the 401k is used as an employee benefit only. I think most people think the 401k is just another benefit. So your health insurance, things like that. In the reality, the mass majority of the clients that we talk to, we're using it as a tool for the business owner to project and to magnify what they can do with their taxes, for one, but also the tools they can use for future expansion or future investment opportunities. So you have to move it away from this is an employee benefit to this is for me. What do I have to give to my employees for me to maximize all this stuff? So a lot of flexibility here. The employees are really, really important. We want to try to make them ineligible. And even if they are eligible, a lot of them are not going to contribute in this industry, right? A lot of them will work, especially if they're seasonal, paycheck to paycheck possibly, and they're not going to want to contribute. So we have to design it to where if they don't contribute, we don't want to give them too much. We'll do a match, but the profit sharing might not work out.
Yeah, no, that's super powerful. And, this always comes back to the same concept of that I had this learning curve as a business owner before I got into this whole tax thing. I was afraid to open up a retirement account because, one, I thought they were too complex. I thought they were costly and just a pain. So I just avoided it. I didn't do it. So I wasn't funding for myself. I didn't have it as a benefit for my employees. Met Matt and realized, hey, it's not that big of a pain. It's not that hard to do, and it's actually not that costly either, especially nowadays when we have a lot of tax credits that help offset that. So that was kind of my first aha moment, is that every business should have a retirement account of some sort, and what that account looks like is going to be customized based on your specific scenario. But I think the next aha moment for me as a business owner was, okay, I got past that, open retirement account. Now understanding how much flexibility and different unique things you can do within it. And, I just thought okay, a 401k is a 401k is a 401k, and realize that that's not the case. There's a lot of different things that you can do. If you're just looking to have a retirement plan that takes care of yourself, there's a route that we can go down. If you just want to have a retirement plan that takes care of yourself and your employees, everyone's kind of equal, there's a route we can go down for that. And if there's a strategy where you say, hey, I want to take care of myself, or I just want to take care of a few of my employees, but not all of my employees, there's definitely routes that we can go down from that, whether it's qualified or non-qualified options. And so just working with Matt has just been really, really nice to see on that end, is wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And it's just not stuff that you don't see this stuff written about online all the time, or it's confusing and not easy to understand. There's not billboards advertising this to you, but it's sitting down and understanding, what does your situation look like, and who are you trying to take care of? What are you trying to do with this plan? Is it just to say, hey, our company has a 401k plan? Okay, if that's all you're looking for, is to say, yes, we have a 401k plan, you're probably just going to go down the typical route that most business owners go down. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just want to make this very clear that there is the possibility to go more, to dive deeper, to get past that, and to go think beyond just that 401k. And that is, again, as kind of Matt's talked about here, that's whether it's a non-qualified plan for yourself, whether it's a non-qualified plan to take care of key employees of yours, or we sometimes call the golden handcuffs. And there's all these different strategies and ideas behind this on how we can utilize some sort of life insurance policy, retirement plan, self-directed plan, all these different things to help achieve what we're looking to do. All I have to say is Matt, I just want to say thank you for jumping back on. This has been super powerful to kind of deep dive into real life case studies. I think it helps bring stuff to life when it makes sense. And we can talk about all these strategies, but when you're actually putting it in practice with a real situation, I just think it helps make it so much easier. And, for those of you that want to have a discussion with Matt and his team, want to kind of look through your plan, maybe you have a plan already, or maybe you want to set up a plan, Or maybe you're just like, hey, some of these things that they talked about today are what I'm looking for. You're looking for something beyond just that 401k, or you have a specific situation that you want to take care of. Click the link in the notes. That's going to take you right to a Matt's site where you can connect with him. Otherwise, go to lifeincrs.com/tax-savings-podcast. And again, Matt, thanks for joining. As all the listeners here know, Matt's a regular guest on the show, kind of deep diving into these concepts and ideas around advanced retirement planning, or just your basic retirement plan if that's all you're looking for as well. So, Matt, thanks for joining us as always.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.